Come on, go away. So it says, I'm in Deuteronomy chapter. Wait. I'm so tired. So I'm in Deuteronomy chapter 19. Let's see. Where's a pen? Oh, here it is. I have to walk all the way to the next tomorrow again, back home. Yeah, I'm so tired. It says Deuteronomy chapter 19. When the Lord destroys whose land he is giving you, you will take over their land and settle in their hometowns and homes. Then you must set apart the cities of the refuge in the land the Lord your God is giving you. Surely the territory and divide the land the Lord your God is giving you into 3 districts, with one of these cities in each district. Then anyone who has killed someone can flee to one of the cities of refuge for safety. If someone kills another person unintentionally without previous hostility, the slayer may flee to any of these cities to live in the safety. For example, suppose someone goes into the forest with a neighbor to cut wood, and suppose one of them swings an axe to chop down a tree, and the axe head flies off the handle and killing the other person. In such cases, the slayer may flee to one of these cities of refuge to live in safety. If the distance to the nearest city of refuge is too far and in range, avenger might be able to chase down and kill the person who caused the death. Then the slayer would be died unfairly, since he had never shown hostility toward the person who died. That is why I am commanding you to set aside 3 cities of refuge. And if the Lord your God enlarges your territory as he swore as your ancestors and gives you all the land he promised them, you must designate 3 additional cities of refuge. He will give you this land if you are careful to obey all the commands I have given you. If you always love the Lord your God and walk in his ways, that way you will prevent death of innocent people in the land the Lord your God is giving you as your special possession. You will not be held responsible for the death of innocent people. But suppose someone is hostile toward a neighbor and deliberately ambushes and murders him, and then flees to one of the cities of refuge. In that case, the elders of the murderer's hometown must send agents to the city of refuge to bring him back and hand him over to the dead person's avenger to be put to death. Do not feel sorry for that murderer. Purge. It says, I wish I would stop getting all them notifications. Hand him over to the dead person's avenger to be put to death. Do not feel sorry for that murdered. Purge from Israel and guilt of murdering innocent people, then all will go well with you. Concern for justice. When you arrive in the land your God is giving you as your special possession, you must never steal anyone's land by moving the boundary markers your ancestors set up to mark their property. You must not convict anyone of a crime on the testimony of only one witness. The facts of the case must be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. If a malicious witness comes forward and accuses someone of a crime, then both the accuser and accused must appear before the Lord. by by coming to the priests and judges in office at the time. The judges must investigate the case freely. If the accuser has brought false charges against his fellow Israelite, you must oppose on the accuser the sentence he intended for the other person. In this way, you will purge such evil from among you. Then the rest of the people will hear about it and be afraid to do such an evil thing. You must show no pity for the guilty. Your rule should not be life for life, eye for eye. Your rule should be life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, and hand for hand, foot for foot. But that's not now, Deuteronomy. That's Deuteronomy chapter 19. Hold on. I just check my laundry. Got too much things to do in one day. Put the stuff in a jar. So I can go to bed. I gotta get up early. Sorry. So I read Deuteronomy chapter 19. It says Deuteronomy chapter 19 is a chapter in the book of Deuteronomy that addresses the establishment of cities of refuge and principles of justice and mercy in the Israelite community. In Deuteronomy chapter 19, Moses continues his addresses to the Israelites, providing instructions regarding the cities of refuge. In the principles of justice, he phrases the importance of establishing fair legal systems and ensuring that innocent individuals are protected from unjust harm. Deuteronomy chapter 19 teaches us several significant lessons. Cities of refuge. The chapter discusses the establishment of cities. I can't breathe. The chapter discusses the establishment of cities of refuge, where designated cities where individuals who intentionally caused the death of another person could seek asylum. These cities provided a safe haven for those who accidentally caused harm, protecting them from revenge of vandalism. This highlights the importance of mercy and compassion in the administration of justice. Justice and fairness. Moses phrases the importance of establishing just legal systems and ensuring that innocent individuals are protected. He instructs the Israelites to appoint judges and officers who will administer justice impartially, without showing favoritism or taking bribes. This teaches us the significance of upholding justice and fairness in our own lives and communities. And then respecting human life. Moses underscores the value of human life and the severity of actions that cause harm to others. He speaks against false witnesses and individuals who maliciously seek to harm others. This reminds us of the importance of treating others with respect and dignity, valuing their lives as precious gifts from God. While this might not directly apply to Christians' lives today, we can draw a practical application. In Deuteronomy chapter 19, we should practicing mercy and compassion, embrace a spirit of mercy and compassion in our interactions with others. Seek to understand their intentions and circumstances before jumping to judgment. Yeah. Intend forgiveness and grace when appropriate, recognizing that everyone makes mistakes and deserves a second chance. Pursuing justice and fairness. Advocate for justice and fairness in our communities, support legal systems and institutions that work toward providing equal treatment and protection for all individuals. Stand against corruption, favorism, and discrimination, just striving to promote fairness and equality. Valuing human life, recognize the sanctity and value of human life, and treat others with respect, kindness, and empathy, and refrain from engaging in malicious actions or spreading false information that could harm others. Instead, seek to uplift and encourage those around you. In summary, Deuteronomy chapter 19 teaches us about the establishment of cities of refuge, the principles of justice and fairness, and the value of human life. May we practice mercy and compassion, pursue justice and fairness, and value the lives of others as we navigate our own communities and relationships. So we're in Deuteronomy chapter 19.
Chapter 19. Cities of Refuge. When the Lord your God destroys the nations whose land he is giving you, you will take over their land and settle in their towns and homes. Then you must set apart 3 cities of refuge in the land the Lord your God is giving you. Survey the territory and divide the land the Lord your God is giving you into 3 districts, with one of these cities.
We already read that. So we're in Deuteronomy chapter 20. That's what I meant. Can't even think straight because I have like a bit of an appointment tomorrow. And then I'm going to be like in real pain because I have to get a deep cleaning. So we're in Deuteronomy chapter 20.
Chapter 20. Regulations concerning war. When you go out to fight your enemies, and you face horses and chariots, and an army greater than your own, do not be afraid. The Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, is with you. When you prepare for battle, the priest must come forward to speak to the troops. He will say to them, "Listen to me, all you men of Israel. Do not be afraid as you go out to fight your enemies today. Do not lose heart or panic or tremble before them. For the Lord your God is going with you. He will fight for you against your enemies, and he will give you victory." Then the officers of the army must address the troops and say, "Has anyone here just built a new house, but not yet dedicated it? If so, you may go home. You might be killed in the battle and someone else would dedicate your house. Has anyone here just planted a vineyard, but not yet eaten any of its fruit? If so, you may go home. You might die in battle and someone else would eat the first fruit. Has anyone here just become engaged to a woman, but not yet married her? Well, you may go home and get married. You might die in the battle and someone else would marry her." Then the officers will also say, "Is anyone here afraid or worried? If you are, you may go home before you frighten anyone else." When the officers have finished speaking to their troops, they will appoint the unit commanders. As you approach a town to attack it, you must first offer its people terms for peace. If they accept your terms and open the gates to you, then all the people inside will serve you in forced labor. But if they refuse to make peace and prepare to fight, you must attack the town. When the Lord your God hands the town over to you, use your swords to kill every man in the town. But you may keep for yourselves all the women, children, livestock, and other plunder. You may enjoy the plunder from your enemies that the Lord your God has given you. But these instructions apply only to distant towns, not to the towns of the nations in the land you will enter. In those towns that the Lord your God is giving you as a special possession, destroy every living thing. You must completely destroy the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, just as the Lord your God has commanded you. This will prevent the people of the land from teaching you to imitate their detestable customs in the worship of their gods, which would cause you to sin deeply against the Lord your God. When you are attacking a town and the war drags on, you must not cut down the trees with your axes. You may eat the fruit, but do not cut down the trees. Are the trees your enemies that you should attack them? You may only cut down trees that you know are not valuable for food. Use them to make the equipment you need to attack the enemy town until it falls. Chapter 21. Cleansing for Unsolved.
So, Deuteronomy 20 is our chapter in this book of Deuteronomy that provides instructions to the rest regarding warfare, particularly when they are preparing to enter the promised land. Moses addresses the Israelites before they engage in battle to take possession of the land that God has promised them. He outlines the guidelines for various scenarios, including the attention of certain individuals for military service, the procedure for conducting a siege, and the rules of engagement. It teaches us of several significant lessons to trust in God's presence. Moses reminds the Israelites that God is with them in their battles. He instructs them not to fear or be discouraged, for the Lord goes before them and fights on their behalf. This highlights the importance of trusting in God's presence and relying on His strength in times of conflict or adversity, and valuing human life. Although the Israelites were engaging in warfare, Moses embraces the value of human life. He provides instructions regarding offering peace to terms to cities before attacking them, demonstrating the importance of seeking peaceful resolutions whenever possible. This reminds us of the significance of valuing human life and pursuing peace in our own interactions and conflict. Moses instructs the Israelites to follow God's commands and not to divide them from them. He reminds them of the covenant they have with God and the importance of remaining faithful to Him. This teaches us the significance of commitment and obedience to God's instructions in all areas of our lives. So we can draw practical applications from Deuteronomy chapter 20. Trust in God's presence in times of difficulty or conflict. Trust in the presence of God and seek His guidance, strength, and wisdom as you navigate challenging situations. Remember that you are not alone, for God is with you fighting on your behalf. Value human life and pursue peace in our interactions and conflicts. Prioritize the value of human life and seek peaceful resolutions whenever possible. Strive to understand the perceptions of others, promote dialogue, and work toward reconciliation. Avoid resorting to violence or aggression unless absolutely necessary for self defense. Commitment and obedience to God. Stay committed to following God's commands and instructions and seek to align your actions and decisions with His will, even in challenging circumstances. Trust that God's ways are higher than our own, and obedience to Him brings blessings and guidance. Deuteronomy chapter 20 teaches us about trusting in God's presence, valuing human life, and the importance of commitment and obedience to God. May we trust in God, value life, and remain committed to following His ways in all aspects of our lives. Deuteronomy chapter 1. Come on, read.
Chapter 21. Cleansing for Unsolved Murder. When you are in the land the Lord your God is giving you, someone may be found murdered in a field, and you don't know who committed the murder. In such a case, your elders and judges must measure the distance from the site of the crime to the nearby towns. When the nearest town has been determined, that town's elders must select from the herd a young cow that has never been trained or yoked to a plow. They must lead it down to a valley that has not been plowed or planted, and that has a stream running through it. There in the valley, they must break the young cow's neck. Then the Levitical priests must step forward, for the Lord your God has chosen them to minister before him and to pronounce blessings in the Lord's name. They are to decide all legal and criminal cases. The elders of the town must wash their hands over the young cow whose neck was broken. Then they must say, "Our hands did not shed this person's blood, nor did we see it happen. O Lord, forgive your people Israel, whom you have redeemed. Do not charge your people with the guilt of murdering an innocent person." Then they will be absolved of the guilt of this person's blood. By following these instructions, you will do what is right in the Lord's sight and will cleanse the guilt of murder from your community. Marriage to a captive woman. Suppose you go out to war against your enemies, and the Lord your God hands them over to you, and you take some of them as captives. And suppose you see among the captives a beautiful woman, and you are attracted to her and want to marry her. If this happens, you may take her to your home, where she must shave her head, cut her nails, and change the clothes she was wearing when she was captured. She will stay in your home, but let her mourn for her father and mother for a full month. Then you may marry her, and you will be her husband, and she will be your wife. But if you marry her and she does not please you, you must let her go free. You may not sell her or treat her as a slave, for you have humiliated her. Rights of the firstborn. Suppose a man has 2 wives, but he loves one and not the other, and both have given him sons. And suppose the firstborn son is the son of the wife he does not love. When the man divides his inheritance, he may not give the larger inheritance to his younger son, the son of the wife he loves, as if he were the firstborn son. He must recognize the rights of his oldest son, the son of the wife he does not love, by giving him a double portion. He is the first son of his father's virility, and the rights of the firstborn belong to him. Dealing with a rebellious son. Suppose a man has a stubborn and rebellious son who will not obey his father or mother, even though they discipline him. In such a case, the father and mother must take the son to the elders as they hold court at the town gate. The parents must say to the elders, "This son of ours is stubborn and rebellious and refuses to obey. He is a glutton and a drunkard." Then all the men of his town must stone him to death. In this way you will purge this evil from among you, and all Israel will hear about it and be afraid. Various regulations. If someone has committed a crime worthy of death and is executed and hung on a tree, the body must not remain hanging from the tree overnight. You must bury the body that same day, for anyone who is hung is cursed in the sight of God. In this way, you will prevent the defilement of the land the Lord your God is giving you as your special possession.
So that was Deuteronomy chapter 21. What's the day today? Tuesday, Monday. It's Monday, 29th, 5/23. So Deuteronomy chapter 1 is a chapter of the book of Deuteronomy that provides instructions on various social and ethical matters, including the treatment of unsolved murders, the rights of wives and children, and the consequences of rebellious behavior. In Deuteronomy chapter 21, Moses continues his address to the Israelites, providing guidelines for specific areas addressing issues related to justice and social responsibility. He emphasizes the importance of upholding righteousness and fairness in community life. Deuteronomy chapter 21 teaches us justice for unsolved murders. Moses instructs the Israelites on how to handle cases where a murder has occurred but the perpetrator is unknown. He emphasizes the importance of offering atonement for the innocent bloodshed and seeking justice for the victim. This highlights the value of human life and responsibility to uphold justice even in challenging circumstances. Respect and protection for wives and children. Moses outlines the rights and protections for wives and children, assuring their well being and fair treatment within the community. He addresses situations such as men having multiple wives or a husband favoring one wife over another. This teaches us the importance of respect and caring for the vulnerable members of society, including spouses and children. Spouses, consequences of rebellious behavior. Moses speaks about the consequences of rebellious behavior, particularly in the case of a stubborn, rebellious son. He highlights the importance of maintaining order and discipline within the community, ensuring that individuals understand the gravity of their actions and the impact they have on the community as a whole. Deuteronomy chapter 21 may not directly apply to our lives today. We can draw practical applications from like seek justice and atone for innocent bloodshed. In situations where injustice or violence occurs, seek justice and atonement for the innocent. Advocate for fairness and work towards resolving unsolved cases or providing support for victims and their families. Uphold the value of human life and actively pursue justice. Respect and protect the vulnerable and show respect and care for the vulnerable members of society, including spouses and children, and those who may be marginalized or oppressed. Ensure their rights are upheld and that they are treated with dignity and fairness. And recognize the importance of discipline and responsibility within the community and teach and model the principles of accountability and the consequences of rebellious behavior. Help individuals understand the impact their actions have on themselves and the community, guiding them towards righteousness and order. Deuteronomy chapter 21 teaches us about seeking justice, respecting and protecting the vulnerable, and emphasizing discipline and responsibility. May we pursue justice, care for the vulnerable, and instill and seek a sense of discipline and responsibility in our own lives and communities. So we're in Deuteronomy chapter 22. So it says, if your neighbor, ox or sheep or goat wandering away, don't ignore your responsibility. Take it back to its owner. If its owner does not live nearby or you don't know who the owner is, take it to your place and keep it until the owner comes looking for it. Then you must return it. Do the same if you find your neighbor's donkey, his clothing, or anything else your neighbor loses. Don't ignore your responsibility. And if you see your neighbor's donkey or ox has collapsed on the road, do not look the other way. Go and help your neighbors get it back on its feet. A woman must not put on men's clothing, and a man must not wear woman's clothing. Anyone who does this is testable in the sight of the Lord your God. If you happen to find a bird's nest in a tree or on the ground, and there are young ones or eggs in it, with the mother sitting in the nest, do not take the mother with the young. You may take the young, but let the mother go, so that you may prosper and enjoy a long life. When you build a new house, you must build a railing around the edge of its flat roof. That way you will not be considered guilty of murder if someone falls from the roof. You must not plant another crop between the rows of your vineyard. If you do, you are forbidden to use either the grapes from the vineyard or the other crop, and you must not plow with an ox and a donkey harnessed together. You must not wear clothing made of wool and linen woven together, and you must not put 4 tassels on the hem of the cloak with which you cover yourself on the front, back, and sides. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 13. And suppose a man marries a woman, but after sleeping with her, he turns against her and publicly accuses her of shameful conduct, saying, When I married this woman, I discovered she was not a virgin. Then the woman's father and mother must bring the proof of her virginity to the elders as they hold court at the town gate. Her father must say to them, I gave my daughter to this man to be his wife, and now he has turned against her. He has accused her of shameful conduct, saying, I discovered that your daughter was not a virgin. But here is the proof of my daughter's virginity. Then they must spread her bed sheet before the elders, and the elders must then take the man and punish him. They must also fine him 200 pieces of silver, which he must pay to the woman's father, because he publicly accused a virgin of Israel of shameful conduct. The woman will then remain the man's wife, and he will never be able to divorce her. But suppose a man's accusations are true, and he can show that she was not a virgin, then the woman must be taken to the door of her father's home, and there the men of the town must stone her to death. For she has committed a disgraceful crime in Israel by being promiscuous while living in her parents' home. In this way you will purge this evil from among you. If a man is discovered committing adultery, both he and the woman must die. In this way you will purge Israel of such evil. And suppose a man meets a young woman, a virgin, who is engaging to be married, and he has sexual intercourse with her. If this happens within a town, you must take both of them to the gates of that town and stone them to death. The woman is guilty because she did not scream for help. The man must die because he violated another man's wife. In this way you will purge this evil from among them. But if the man meets the engaged woman in the country and he rapes her, then only the man must die. Do nothing to the young woman. She has committed no crime or free of death, and she is as good as a murder victim. Since the man raped her out in the country, it must be assumed that she screamed, but there was no help, no one to rescue her. Suppose a man has intercourse with a young woman who is a virgin but is not engaged to be married. If they are discovered, he must pay her father 50 pieces of silver. Then he must marry the young woman because he violated her, and he may never divorce her as long as he lives. A man must not marry his father's former wife, for this would violate his father. So Deuteronomy chapter 22 is a chapter book, Deuteronomy, that discovers various laws and guidelines related to personal conduct, relationships, and social responsibilities within the Israelite community. In Deuteronomy chapter 22, Moses continues to provide instructions to the Israelites regarding ethical and moral practices. He addresses the range of topics, including kindness to his neighbors, protection of property, respect for gender boundaries, and the importance of maintaining purity in various aspects of life. Deuteronomy 22 gives us the respect and boundaries of property. Moses phrases the importance of respect and boundaries and property rights. He instructs his rights not to move their neighbors' boundaries markers, highlighting the needs for honesty and fairness in our interactions with others. This teaches us the value of respecting others' possessions and boundaries, treating them with care and integrity. Gender distinctions and purity. Moses addresses various aspects of gender distinctions and purity within the Israelite community. He speaks about cross-dressing, sexual immorality, and the importance of maintaining purity in relationships. These teachings remind us that the significance of honoring God designed for gender and relationships, promoting purity, upholding the moral standards in our lives. Compassion for animals. Moses also highlights the importance of showing compassion and care for animals. He instructs the Israelites not to muzzle an ox while it is treading grain, allowing it to eat as it works. This teaches us the value of treating animals with kindness and ensuring their well being, recognizing our responsibility as the stewards of God's creation. Deuteronomy 22 may not directly apply to Christian lives today, but respect and honesty, practice respect and honesty in our interactions with others, treat their property and boundaries with care and integrity, and refrain from taking advantage of others or engaging in dishonest practices. Uphold moral standards, honor God designed for gender and relationships by promoting purity and upholding moral standards, embrace healthy boundaries, and strive to cultivate relationships that reflect God's intention for love, honor, and mutual respect. Show compassion toward animals, display kindness and compassion toward animals, treat them with care and ensure their well-being, avoid unnecessary harm or cruelty, recognizing our role as responsible stewards of God's creation. In summary, Deuteronomy 22 teaches us about respecting boundaries and property, upholding moral standards, and showing compassion toward animals. And may we practice honesty and respect, uphold moral values, and display compassion in our interactions with others, with the natural world. So, Deuteronomy chapter 23 yet. Never be done it. I don't know if I can read them all because it's like so busy. I got 37 minutes. So when I get this laundry, then I get up 6 o'clock. Deuteronomy chapter 23. Is that what I'm at? Yeah.
Chapter 22. If you see your neighbor's ox or sheep or goat wandering away, don't ignore your responsibility.
Wait, what am I doing? Yeah, Deuteronomy chapter 23 I'm at. Come on.
Chapter 23. Regulations concerning worship. If a man's testicles are crushed or his penis is cut off, he may not be admitted to the assembly of the Lord. If a person is illegitimate by birth, neither he nor his descendants for 10 generations may be admitted to the assembly of the Lord. No Ammonite or Moabite or any of their descendants for 10 generations may be admitted to the assembly of the Lord. These nations did not welcome you with food and water when you came out of Egypt. Instead, they hired Balaam, son of Beor from Pethor in distant Aram Naharaim, to curse you. But the Lord your God refused to listen to Balaam. He turned the intended curse into a blessing because the Lord your God loves you. As long as you live, you must never promote the welfare and prosperity of the Ammonites or Moabites. Do not detest the Edomites or the Egyptians, because the Edomites are your relatives, and you lived as foreigners among the Egyptians. The third generation of Edomites and Egyptians may enter the assembly of the Lord. Miscellaneous regulations. When you go to war against your enemies, be sure to stay away from anything that is impure. Any man who becomes ceremonially defiled because of a nocturnal emission must leave the camp and stay away all day. Toward evening he must bathe himself, and at sunset he may return to the camp. You must have a designated area outside the camp where you can go to relieve yourself. Each of you must have a spade as part of your equipment. Whenever you relieve yourself, dig a hole with the spade and cover the excrement. The camp must be holy, for the Lord your God moves around in your camp to protect you and to defeat your enemies. He must not see any shameful thing among you, or he will turn away from you. If slaves should escape from their masters and take refuge with you, you must not hand them over to their masters. Let them live among you in any town they choose, and do not oppress them. No Israelite, whether man or woman, may become a temple prostitute. When you are bringing an offering to fulfill a vow, you must not bring to the house of the Lord your God any offering from the earnings of a prostitute, whether a man or a woman, for both are detestable to the Lord your God. Do not charge interest on the loans you make to a fellow Israelite, whether you loan money or food or anything else. You may charge interest to foreigners, but you may not charge interest to Israelites, so that the Lord your God may bless you in everything you do in the land you are about to enter and occupy. When you make a vow to the Lord your God, be prompt in fulfilling whatever you promised him. For the Lord your God demands that you promptly fulfill all your vows, or you will be guilty of sin. However, it is not a sin to refrain from making a vow. But once you have voluntarily made a vow, be careful to fulfill your promise to the Lord your God. When you enter your neighbor's vineyard, you may eat your fill of grapes, but you must not carry any away in a basket. And when you enter your neighbor's field of grain, you may pluck the heads of grain with your hand, but you must not harvest it with a sickle.
So the Bible that contains various laws and regulations regarding
Chapter 24. Suppose a man
regulations regarding membership of the Israelite community, FL conduct and relationships with others. Deuteronomy 23, Moses addresses specific groups, people who are be excluded from the assembly of the Lord. He provides guidelines related to interests of certain individuals within the community of Israel and emphasizes the importance of maintaining holiness and purity with the camp. Deuteronomy chapter 23 teaches us several significant lessons. Maintaining holiness. Most of it phrases the importance of maintaining holiness within the community. He outlines specific cases where individuals are excluded from the assembly, such as those with certain physical conditions or those of legitimate birth. This highlights the valuing of maintaining spiritual and moral purity, as well as the need to set boundaries to protect the sanctity of the community. Ethical conduct. Moses provides guidelines for ethical conduct within the community. He addresses issues such as vows, honesty in business dealings, and the treatment of foreigners and those in need. These teachers remind us the importance of integrity, of compassion, and fairness in our interactions with others. Purity in worship. Moses emphasizes the importance of maintaining purity in worship, and he prohibits the offering of certain items associated with idolatrous practices and instructs the Israelites to be diligent in their worship of the Lord. This teaches us the value of sincere and wholehearted devotion to God, avoiding any practices or associations that may compromise our worship. Deuteronomy 23, um, we can draw practical applications from Deuteronomy chapter 23. Pursue holiness means strive to maintain holiness in our lives by aligning our thoughts, actions, and choices with God's principles and set boundaries that protect our spiritual and moral purity. Avoiding influences that may compromise our commitment to God, and practical ethical conduct ourselves with integrity, honesty, and fairness in our areas of life. Honor our commitments, treat others with respect and compassion, and extend a helping hand to those in need. Cultivate sincere worship. Engage in worship that is sincere, wholehearted, and focused on God alone. Avoid any practices or associations that may distract or dilute our devotion to the Lord. Seek to cultivate a deep, authentic connection with God in our worship. In summary, Deuteronomy 23 teaches us about maintaining holiness, practicing ethical conduct, and cultivating sincere worship. May we strive for holiness, practice ethical living, and engage in worship that is genuine and focused on God. So that was 18, Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 2, Deuteronomy chapter 23, I read.